The morning mist rolled slowly over the cracked stone courtyard of the abandoned Sword Manor. For 5 long centuries, the world believed the legendary swordmaster had vanished into dust. Instead, his soul had awakened inside the frail body of Shen, the crippled third young master. To the rest of the clan, he was merely a useless burden who could never inherit the family legacy. Yet beneath his unmoving skin, an ocean of supreme internal energy was quietly reforming. Outside his secluded quarters, arrogant disciples laughed loudly while practicing their basic sword forms. Among them, a young girl named Chu struggled just to lift her heavy training blade. The elite instructors openly mocked her lack of inherent talent, commanding her to leave the grounds. Shen watched the scene from the distant shadow of a weeping willow tree. He recognized a rare spark within her spirit that the blind fools could never perceive. As night fell over the mountain, Chu sat alone by a dying fire, weeping quietly over her failure. The soft creak of old wooden wheels broke the absolute silence of the mountain air. Chu jumped to her feet in alarm, instantly bowing deeply to the crippled young master. Shen told her that her current teachers were leading her down a completely false path. She looked at him with confusion, wondering how a crippled man could understand high-level martial arts. Without speaking another word, Shen extended a single pale finger toward the dying campfire. Instantly, the cold ashes erupted into a massive pillar of pure, spiraling golden flame. He explained that true strength did not come from raw muscle, but from controlling residual heat energy. Intrigued by this profound display, Chu fell to her knees and begged him to become her true master. Shen accepted her on one condition, stating she must keep his true power an absolute secret from the world. For the next 3 weeks, he guided her breathing under the heavy veil of midnight. He taught her how to absorb the invisible heat left behind by the sun long after it had set. Under his unique instructions, her wooden sword began to feel as light as a feather. Shen watched her rapid progress, knowing the upcoming manor tournament would be the perfect testing ground. Within days, Chu could manipulate the air currents around her body using mere thermal fluctuations. Soon, the day of the public arena matches arrived, drawing thousands of spectators from across the region. Shen's older brother sat on the high balcony, looking down with absolute disdain at the competitors. When Chu stepped onto the stone stage, the crowd erupted into a wave of cruel laughter. Her opponent was the manor's strongest ranked mystical trainee, renowned for his ruthless ice elemental strikes. From the lowest row of the spectator stands, Shen sat quietly in his wooden wheelchair, completely unbothered. The referee shouted to begin, and the ice master immediately lunged forward with a lethal slash. Chu closed her eyes tightly, remembering Shen's words about the underlying warmth of the earth. She lightly tapped the tip of her wooden sword against the cold stone floor. Instantly, the massive wall of oncoming ice dissolved into thin air, turning into a cloud of harmless steam. The entire stadium fell into a stunned silence as the elite master staggered back in absolute confusion. Before he could react, Chu vanished from sight, moving with the speed of rising heat. With a single elegant sweep of her wooden blade, she shattered his iron weapon into thousands of pieces. The strongest trainee fell heavily onto his back, completely defeated by a girl using a simple stick. High above, Shen's older brother gripped his golden armrest so tightly that the metal began to bend. Chu looked up toward the lower stands, offering a subtle, grateful nod to her hidden master. Shen merely smiled back, knowing this small victory had just painted a massive target on both of their backs. Deep within the shadows of the royal balcony, an ominous ink-black celestial aura began to slowly coil around his brother's furious silhouette. The dark celestial aura tightened its grip around the elder brother's soul, like a constricting serpent. Whispers of ancient hatred flooded his mind, drowning out every last vestige of brotherly love. He raised his heavy broadsword high, signaling the hidden armies to emerge from the mountain mist. Thousands of armored soldiers marched forward, their footsteps shaking the foundations of the Sword Manor. Inside his quiet courtyard, Shen felt the vibrations of the approaching war through the wheels of his chair. He poured a final cup of tea, watching the ripples dance across the surface of the liquid. Suddenly, the manor gates exploded into a million wooden splinters as the first wave of invaders arrived. 9 legendary martial masters descended from the sky, their colorful energy auras lighting up the dark clouds. They had been promised the manor's treasures in exchange for the third master's head. The eldest brother laughed, his voice amplified by the dark entity's foul magic. Shen finally looked up, his white hair billowing in the sudden unnatural wind. He noted that the tea had gone cold, a sign that the time for patience had passed. The first legendary master dove forward, his spear trailing a wake of burning fire. Without moving from his seat, Shen flicked a single drop of spilled tea into the air. The droplet accelerated, piercing through the fire and the master's chest like a divine bullet. The other 8 legends froze in mid-air, their expressions shifting from arrogance to pure terror. Shen told them that they were far too loud for such a peaceful evening. He released a wave of pure sword intent that flattened every soldier within a mile. The 8 remaining legends were slammed into the ground, their cultivation foundations cracking audibly. Seeing his pawns fall, Shen Long jumped from the balcony, his sword wreathed in abyssal flames. He struck with the strength of the celestial entity, aiming to cleave the entire manor in two. Shen raised 2 fingers, catching the massive blade with the ease of a man catching a leaf. He looked his brother in the eye and remarked on how far he had fallen for a taste of false power. With a simple twist of his wrist, Shen shattered the legendary black broadsword into 10,000 pieces. The backlash of the broken weapon sent the elder brother flying back into the manor walls. The dark entity began to manifest physically, rising from the brother's shadow as a towering titan of smoke. It roared that this world was a cage, and the moon was the lock that kept the masters weak. Shen looked up at the silver moon, seeing the invisible chains of energy binding the realm's potential. He decided that the cage had existed for long enough. He pointed his finger toward the heavens, concentrating 500 years of reincarnated energy into a single point. A beam of pure celestial swordlight shot upward, piercing the clouds and the atmosphere. The beam struck the center of the moon, causing a silent ripple to spread across its surface. Slowly, cracks of golden light began to spiderweb across the entire lunar surface. With a sound that echoed in the souls of every living being, the moon shattered into a billion glowing fragments. The invisible chains snapped, and a rain of pure divine essence began to fall upon the world. The dark entity shriveled and burned under the touch of this unfiltered celestial light. Shen's brother fell to his knees, his mind cleared of the corruption but filled with the weight of his sins. Shen sat back down in his wheelchair, his legs returning to their crippled state, as if nothing had happened. He knew that shattering the moon would draw the attention of the true masters from the upper realms. Deep in the void of the shattered moon, a massive, ancient eye suddenly blinked open, staring directly down at Shen. The massive crimson eye in the shattered lunar void glared downward with absolute malice. Master Shen merely smiled, utterly unfazed by the cosmic entity's terrifying gaze. He knew that the destruction of the sealing moon would inevitably draw out the hidden parasitic gods of the upper realm. To face these ancient entities on equal terms, his current mortal vessel required complete physical restoration. Remembering the locations of rare cosmic nodes from his past life, Shen directed his attendants toward the bustling eastern maritime ports. Young Chu diligently pushed her master's intricate wooden wheelchair across the winding mountain paths. Rumors had spread that an elite trading vessel from the upper celestial realm had secretly docked at the Dragonhead harbor. Guarding the grand celestial vessel were the elite enforcers of the regional Purple Flame sect, wearing heavy crimson armor. As Shen's wheelchair approached the primary gangplank, a burly Purple Flame commander stepped forward to block their path. The commander sneered openly at the sight of a crippled youth claiming to seek rare spiritual herbs. Without blinking, Shen flicked a single piece of residual heat energy from his fingertip directly into the commander's blade. Instantly, the heavy broadsword shattered into 1,000 molten shards, scalding the arrogant commander's arms. The surrounding guards recoiled in absolute terror, realizing this seemingly helpless invalid possessed monstrous hidden power. From the luxurious main cabin of the vessel, a wealthy merchant dressed in glittering starlight robes emerged gracefully. Recognizing the ancient, pure aura emanating from Shen, the merchant bowed so low his forehead touched the lacquer deck. Inside the secure inner sanctuary of the ship, the merchant presented a sealed box carved from frozen primordial ice. Within the box rested the fabled Nine-Heaven Rebirth Stalk, an exceedingly rare cosmic flora capable of reshaping broken bones. Shen accepted the supreme cultivation material, offering a single drop of his concentrated ancestral blood as payment. The upper realm merchant trembled with joy, knowing this ancestral blood drop was worth more than an entire planetary system. With the materials secured, Shen ordered Chu to prepare a reinforced spiritual vessel to cross the turbulent endless ocean. The waves rose like mountain peaks, but an invisible sphere of silver energy surrounding Shen's boat kept the waters perfectly calm. Deep within the eye of the oceanic storm, Shen began the grueling process of absorbing the Nine-Heaven Rebirth Stalk. Intense tendrils of cosmic energy violently shattered the old, corrupted meridians within his lower limbs to rebuild them from scratch. Chu watched from the stern, maintaining a protective stance while marveling at her master's terrifying endurance. With a resounding roar of thunder, the silver light condensed completely, and Shen's feet touched the wooden deck for the first time in centuries. He took a single step forward, and a massive shockwave instantly flattened the raging sea into a mirror-like sheet of glass. The wheelchair was no longer a cage, but a relic of a ruse that had finally outlived its primary purpose. Arriving at the shores of the southern continent, Shen sensed the oppressive heat of the Purple Flame sect's primary volcano fortress. The supreme patriarch of the Purple Flame sect stood atop the volcanic battlements, surrounded by thousands of elite disciples. The patriarch demanded that the traveling inner realm intruders kneel and surrender their cosmic secrets immediately. Shen continued walking upward along the volcanic path, his hands casually tucked into his silken sleeves. Thousands of Purple Flame archers loosed a torrent of blazing arrows down upon the lone white-haired master. With a gentle wave of his hand, Shen inverted the ambient heat, turning the arrows into harmless crystalline ice mid-air. The Purple Flame Patriarch gasped in utter disbelief as his sect's ultimate elemental affinity was completely overridden. Shen stood before the grand gates of the fortress, his gaze piercing through the elite defensive barriers like paper. He released a fraction of his newly restored sovereign pressure, instantly forcing the thousands of elite disciples to drop to their knees. The arrogant masters of the regional sect writhed on the stone floor, their pride utterly shattered by a single entity. "Your flames are nothing but flickering candles before the true sun," Shen spoke softly, his voice echoing across the entire continent. The defeated patriarch offered the sect's ancient core token, officially submitting the entire southern realm to Shen's absolute rule. But as Shen took hold of the core token, a violent tremor shook the foundations of the deep ocean bed far to the south. Chu ran to the balcony, pointing out at the horizon where the ocean water was rapidly draining into an enormous abyss. A deafening, ancient roar echoed from the oceanic depths, carrying a cursed lineage aura that Shen recognized instantly. It was the forbidden dragon lineage tribulation, a catastrophic awakening meant to tear the lower world asunder. Worse still, the energy signatures of a rival pavilion's elite sword thralls were rapidly approaching the vortex to claim the beast's power. As a massive scale-covered claw erupted from the center of the abyss, the sky turned a blood-red color, leaving the fate of the entire realm hanging by a thread. The blood-red sky boiled with unnatural heat as the massive scale-covered claw tore through the fabric of the ocean abyss. Looking down from the edge of the coastal cliff, Shen observed the colossal disturbance without a single flicker of fear in his eyes. He stepped forward directly into the open air, his newly healed legs carrying him effortlessly over the crashing waves. A radiant barrier of silver celestial energy immediately parted the water as he descended into the oceanic depths. Deep within the suboceanic trench, the ancient devil beast roared, recognizing the distinct soul signature of its eternal enemy. This cataclysmic beast was a remnant from Shen's past life, sealed away 5 centuries ago beneath these heavy tides. Nearby, a volatile glowing dragon lineage core spun violently out of control, threatening to shatter the oceanic tectonic plates. The rival pavilion master stood atop the altar, greedily attempting to siphon the unstable dragon essence into his broadsword. Shen watched the foolish man's futile struggle, knowing that raw mortal souls could never contain such divine lineage power. Sensing an intruder, the rival master turned around and immediately ordered his elite sword thralls to attack. Dozens of mindless, armored sword thralls swam forward with absolute speed, their blades humming with corrupted energy. Shen merely raised a single pale index finger, sending a shockwave of absolute authority through the surrounding water. The supreme ancestral energy pulsed outward, instantly rewriting the loyalty seals embedded within the thralls' minds. The elite sword thralls suddenly froze in mid-motion, their crimson weapons instantly shifting to a pure celestial silver hue. Turning around simultaneously, the entire army knelt down low in the water, acknowledging Shen as their true patriarch. The rival pavilion master shrieked in absolute disbelief as his ultimate weapon was taken from him with a single gesture. Suddenly, the ancient devil beast broke completely free from its ancient chains and lunged directly toward the vulnerable dragon core. "You have forgotten your place after 500 years," Shen whispered, his voice resonating perfectly through the deep water. He manifested a massive sword phantom made of pure celestial starlight directly above the beast's giant head. With a downward sweep of his hand, the giant starlight sword drove the ancient devil beast straight into the seabed. A new permanent sealing array formed instantly where the sword struck, locking the beast away for eternity. Shen then drifted effortlessly toward the volatile dragon lineage core, which was still spark-bleeding dangerous energy. He placed his palm gently onto the fractured surface of the core, infusing it with his pure primordial cultivation energy. The fractures instantly healed, and the core transformed into a serene, perfectly stabilized sphere of pure gold power. Seeing his plans completely ruined, the rival pavilion master lunged at Shen with a desperate, hidden dagger. Without even turning around, Shen allowed the newly converted sword thralls to step forward and intercept the traitor. The rival master was instantly disarmed and subdued, forced to his knees by the very soldiers he had once enslaved. With the dragon lineage stabilized, a massive beam of golden light shot upward from the trench, piercing through the entire ocean. The dark blood-red clouds in the sky above dissolved instantly, replaced by a beautiful, clear celestial atmosphere. Shen ascended back to the surface, accompanied by his loyal new legion of elite warriors. Word of his definitive victory spread across every continent, completely dismantling the authority of the corrupt regional sects. At the Grand Plaza of the abandoned Sword Manor, thousands of disciples gathered to witness the official return of the Patriarch. Chu, his top female disciple, stood at the front of the crowd, weeping tears of pure joy at her master's complete triumph. Shen walked slowly up the grand steps of the palace, no longer needing any wheelchair, his posture radiating absolute perfection. He turned around at the top of the stairs, looking over the vast realm he had successfully liberated from corruption. A magnificent manifestation of a silver celestial dragon materialized in the sky behind him, roaring in total submission. The old age of secrecy, fake cripples, and bitter betrayals had finally come to an end. The true ancestral patriarch had taken his rightful throne, securing peace for the next 10,000 generations. With a gentle wave of his hand, he sent out a final wave of pure spiritual energy to nurture the entire world. Under his immortal guidance, the legendary Sword Manor would forever stand as the supreme beacon of absolute truth and power.